Carrie and welcome back to the dirt. Summer is here and one of my favorite warm weather pastimes is creating summer container displays. During many years of apartment living, I learned to get creative with the small amount of space available to me. And even though I have my own yard now, I still like to come up with new and different ways to complement the front porch. Stay tuned and I'll show you how to be creative when brightening your own outdoor living spaces. It used to be that the only options for planters were terracotta pots, but there are many materials to choose from nowadays. More options are available than ever before, whether you prefer concrete, metal, glazed, synthetic, large or small, plain or colorful. I usually invest in 2 or 3 glazed ceramic containers that can be accents to complement my plant choices. For the rest, I prefer to use pots made out of synthetic materials because they're lighter, easier to move into the garage at the end of the season, and they can be left outside for holiday arrangements without cracking. It is very important that you don't leave your glazed stone or terracotta pots outside in the elements all year. Water can accumulate in them, and the freezing and thawing that occurs in winter will cause cracking and flaking. Most synthetic pots will come with a plug in the bottom for when they are used indoors. Be sure to take this out before filling it with soil. And when choosing your stone, metal, or ceramic containers, always be sure to check for the proper drainage holes at the bottom. Otherwise, the pot will fill with more water than the plants can drink and the roots will suffocate. Finally, don't clutter your patio or deck with more than it can hold. One well-situated large container might be all you need to brighten a dull corner. Or if you can't invest in a big showpiece, go with an assortment of smaller pots clustered in groups for more impact. Now that we've picked the containers for our plants, we want to choose the proper growing media for the best growth on the plants. Regular screen topsoil is much too dense and won't allow for a good drainage. Plus, it gets really heavy when wet, and I like to be able to move the pots around. You can use a rich broken down compost like this. I've done this plenty of times when I have leftovers from my garden and I didn't have anything else on hand. Plus, it's a lot lighter and looser than topsoil and has extra nutrients for really healthy plants. You can also go with a light soilless potting mix like this. They're available in bags at your local garden centers, and it's usually a mix of peat moss and synthetic additives to improve drainage. Combine a soilless potting blend with water until it holds a loose ball. I will often add a little compost to the blend at this time to keep the soilless mix from drying out too fast. I'll add a slow-release fertilizer too, so I don't have to worry about fertilizing the plants this summer. This next step is my favorite part, choosing the plants. Some of the best container displays are for shady areas because there's so much you can do with foliage color and texture. And who says you have to stick with annuals? I love to incorporate perennials into pots, like this one, where I use blue zinger sedge, Georgia peach coral bells, and Stairway to Heaven Jacob's Ladder. Try adding some shade-loving perennials in with your annuals for interesting colors and textures. Even a single twist and shout hydrangea in a container will add long-blooming impact and can be planted in the yard at the end of the season. If the area gets a lot of sun, there are plenty of annuals to choose from that will give you continuous summer color. But like the shade containers, I like to add some perennials and shrubs just to make it a little different and mix it up. People will often ask me if there's any rules to keep in mind when you're selecting the plants for containers. Basically, you just want to consider the proportions. Keep the size of the pot in proportion to the height of the plants. For example, on this large pot here, I placed an early blooming quickfire hydrangea in the center for instant impact, and then I added the annuals around the base for more color. The coleus here will provide a medium height, and then the million bells will trail over the side. Perennial grasses are another way to add instant height and texture to your containers. So enough talking. Let's get our hands dirty. Now it's time to take these 2 identical pots from so-so to sensational. First, we need to fill the pot with our growing media. Here's a little trick I use. Take an empty plastic container and place it upside down over the drainage hole. This works really good for large pots because then I don't have to use as much soil and I save money. Plus, it makes it lighter when I'm moving it around the patio. next container is going to be in the shade, and I want a soft, romantic feel. So I'm going to place some variegated ivy in the corners to trail over the edges. Then this lovely pink begonia as my medium height. Oops. And in the center, a Delft lace astilbe that has this gorgeous purplish foliage, and then when it blooms, will match the pink of the begonias. Basically, I'm just going to walk you through how I put the pot together. Carefully take it out, and if you see a lot of roots that are circling the pot, this one's okay, but I would just rough it up with my fingertips to stimulate root growth. Take all the tags out. Plant the center one first. And I want to leave a little bit of a lip around the inside of the pot to collect any water, so I get a nice deep soak when I water it. So I'll plant this a little bit high. Maybe a little bit higher. And don't be afraid to mush them in there. Now I'll do some begonias. Be very careful taking begonias out. They're quite fragile. I'll just use my hands for this one. Gently pack the dirt around the edges of the pot. Pack it down a little bit. You don't want to do it too hard, but you also don't want the dirt to settle too much and expose the root ball. See, the roots are a little tight on the bottom here. I'll just lightly tease them with my fingertips. Put it in the corner here. Pack the soil around. And you certainly don't want to overfill the pot, because then you get the plants competing for room, and sometimes you'll end up watering too often. But you also don't want to put too few in, because summers don't last very long up here, and you don't want to wait forever to have a nice showy container display. So that's about a third of the way done. I'm just going to finish planting the rest around the side, and then we'll move on to a sun container. Now I will repeat the same process with this container, but it's going to be for a sunny area. This time I want some warmer colors and a little more contrast. So I've selected a Sem Ashleaf Spirea for a little bit of drama, and then warm colors with the rustic orange coleus, yellow Gerbera daisies, little purple violets, and a crackling fire million bells to trail over the side. You can also add flair to your container displays by playing with the height and scale of your plants. A small Korean maple in a shallow pot creates an oriental feel. Or keep it simple and surround a little blue stem grass with golden Scotch moss. Showcase your garden art in a tall, narrow pot, or create a miniature landscape to make your friends feel at home. However you decide to decorate your porch or patio this year, just be sure to have fun with it. The whole point of a patio is having a nice place to relax outside. So at the end of a long day, you can sit back with a cold drink and admire your handiwork, and take full credit when your friends wonder where you got such great ideas. I'm Carrie Hennessy. Thank you for tuning in today, and I hope to see you next time to get the latest dirt.